mean it's just played. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. Mo, we had ourselves a football game last night. It was better than most Thursday night football games. Definitely. What were your immediate takeaways from the Cowboys pulling out, like you said, a close one against the Seattle Seahawks?
I actually thought the Seahawks gave that game away. I thought the Seahawks outplayed the Cowboys for the most part, but in the second half, I thought both their offense and their defense, they just kind of came apart a little bit. And give Dallas credit. They found a way to make plays late in the game, and that's what you need to do sometimes when you don't play your best football.
I don't know if I would have went with the strategy of not blocking Micah Parsons on 4th and 2 with the game on the line.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. And I think when at one point it was 4th and 4, and I'm like, they're in zero coverage. There's nobody in the middle of the field. If you drop back and then you just run it up the middle, quarterback draw it, you're gonna get 4 yards and then some. I just thought their offensive coordinator made some questionable calls late in the game.
Well, I didn't think I'd be saying this at any point this season, but I think it's a fair conversation to have. And it's the conversation doesn't happen now. It happens based on next week. If next week the Dallas Cowboys defeats the Philadelphia Eagles, is Dak Prescott the current league MVP?
Well, if they turn around and they beat Philly and he plays big in that game as well,
similar to how he played the first time around, which was good.
Yeah, well, and it's in a victory. Look, I think that I don't know if he's the MVP, but he's got to be pushed right up into at the height of the race, right? He's got to be like right there. And we talk about this all the time. It's a quarterback award, more or less. Well, he's the quarterback of a winning team. Then look at his numbers. He's got outstanding numbers. Yeah, look, like you said, I didn't expect to say this. I think Dak would legit have a chance to win the MVP.
I mean, he went into last night's game second in the league in touchdown passes. He threw 3 last night, so he passed Josh Allen. So he's got 26 touchdown passes. Allen had 24, and he'll stay pat because he's on his bye week. So there's a couple of guys around 22, 21. So it's very realistic that when week 13 ends, he'll be the league leader in touchdown passes. I believe he only has 6 picks on the year. His team is 9-3. His passer rating is top of the league. His completion percentage is top of the league. I understand you only play the teams on your schedule, so I'm not going to take that away from him. Obviously, if he loses 2 games to the Philadelphia Eagles, that says something, right? Because you need to beat, the teams in your division, and you need to beat who you're potentially going to be playing in the playoffs. Right. So, but if he beats them after playing well enough and outplaying, in my opinion, Jalen Hurts in the first game of the season, if he outplays him again in the second game of the season and gets the victory, I'm going to look at it and say, okay, I don't know how I can I don't know how I could at that point, how I could sit there and say Jalen Hurts is the MVP over Dak Prescott. When Dak has better numbers, Dak has the victory over him, so they're 1-1 in their head-to-head. I understand that Jalen Hurts would have a better record by a win at that point. But when you're looking at the brand of football both of these teams are playing, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are blowing the doors off teams more often than not this season. And I get it. They're not playing, the toughest schedule, Mo. But at the same time, if you look at some of the teams that Philly's playing, I mean, Philly had to go to overtime against Washington. It's not like Philly's over here playing. I know that Philly has some harder games on their schedule, but even the games against, average to below average teams, it's not like Philly's over here like, well, we did the same thing against the average teams. We just played far less average teams. No, I mean, Philly's playing a lot of close games this season. In fact, the majority of their games are pretty close. Philly's been down at halftime in 4 or 5 consecutive games. Philly's been out yardaged in some of their victories this season by a whopping amount. So I get it. They're winning games and they're doing what they got to do. And I've always said, Mo, and you may feel this way as well. I don't give style points for wins in the NFL, right? You win what's on your schedule. Style points and signature wins come in the playoffs. However, I would argue that's a little different when you're talking the MVP race. Because when you're talking the MVP race and they both got numbers, well, now you have to look at other stuff, right? And that's when you start looking at style wins and who they played and when do they play them and whatnot. Because MVP is a regular season award. I don't think it should be. I think we should MVP when the entire season is over, because I think we're missing a huge chunk of what happens for some of these players by making it just a regular season award. But that's what it is. It's a regular season award. So you have to look at everything that encompasses the regular season.
And it's funny because you're right. There are games that'll matter more than others on the schedule. And if Dak Prescott can beat the Eagles, how is he not an MVP candidate? Maybe the front runner. He leaps to the front. Although on the flip side, if Jalen Hurts were to beat the Niners this week and then follow that up by beating the Dallas Cowboys, he could
lock it up for himself.
Right. He would solidify himself as the MVP. So there's an opportunity for both of them to kind of elevate themselves in that race.
And while all this is going on, sitting quietly in the background, you got Tyreek Hill saying, I'm going to get 2,000 yards. I'm going to have, 15 to 18 touchdowns. And he's going to do everything that he can to not only make history, but make a run at this MVP award. What does he need to do realistically to be in the conversation?
I think he knows. I think he knows he's got to shatter that 2,000-yard barrier. He does. He's got to get there. I think the touchdowns are going to be there, right? Like on a given year, he's always a double-digit touchdown guy. That's who he is. But I think he shatters that 2,000. Like, what if he gets 2,000 or 2,200 or something? You know what I mean? Like, he's got to shatter it because he's fighting an uphill battle. How often a wide receiver winning MVP? Because usually if you're a great wide receiver, they acknowledge that you're great, but then usually go, well, look at your quarterback. Now, you know what I mean? But to be fair, Tua's not Joe Average. He's a very good quarterback. He is. I think he's probably just shy of being in the MVP race himself. But to Tyreek's credit, as good as Tua is, Tyreek is the one guy in the league that can take the 6-yard pass and turn it into an 86-yard pass. That is his unique talent, his skill set. And I think that's what makes him worthy of being an MVP candidate.
Well, let me ask you this. A lot has been made of Aaron Rodgers. A lot has been made of what's happened so far in the NFL this season, in the AFC. And if we just look at the AFC, is it fair to say that this is the year in the AFC for all the what ifs? So Aaron Rodgers, let's put that to the side for a minute. Going into this season, and rightfully so, Patrick Mahomes was probably your favorite, right? He was probably the guy where you're like, if you are going to get to the Super Bowl, you are going to have to go through Patrick Mahomes at some point. He is going to be, he's the guard. If you're going to need to get through the Chiefs if you want to find your way into the Super Bowl to represent the AFC. Many thought Aaron Rodgers could do that. Many thought that Aaron Rodgers and the Jets had the opportunity with the defense and with some of the other stuff that they had going on to potentially take down Patrick Mahomes. If you look at the landscape of the AFC, are you really scared of Patrick Mahomes this season? There's been games, 3 of them in fact, where Patrick Mahomes hasn't scored in the second half of the game. at all. 0 points. Not once, not twice, 3 times this season. Different teams. And I understand he played against some good defenses this season, but we're talking about the elites. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes. We're talking about one of one in the NFL today. That doesn't happen to Patrick Mahomes, but it's been a weird season for him, right? He has some things going on that Kansas City squad. They're not exactly firing on all cylinders. Well, what else has happened in the AFC? Joe Burrow's down. Bengals aren't a contender. How about that quarterback that they're always talking about who, just has to get the coaching situation right? Oh, Justin Herbert. He's not going to the playoffs. What about that guy 3 years ago that was the next Patrick Mahomes? Oh, Josh Allen. I mean, people at Bleacher Report can say he's the best quarterback in the league if they want, but he's 6-6. He probably isn't going to the playoffs. Mo, it's anyone's race that wants to step up into it right now. If you are a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, why the hell not? If you're a Dolphin fan, why the hell not? If you're a Houston Texans fan, honestly, why not? Because you look at it and I'm guilty of this. I've kind of spit in the face a little bit of Houston Texans fans, but then you sit back and you look at it and you say, well, who would they really have to beat to get there? Mo, this is a lot different than winning the Super Bowl, because winning the Super Bowl, you're talking about Philly, or you're talking about Dallas, or you're talking about San Francisco. That's different. I'm not even having that conversation right now. I'm saying get there to represent the AFC. There is no front runner in the AFC right now. There isn't. You name a team, and I'll tell you 3 things that are wrong with them, and I'll tell you 5 teams that on any given day can easily beat that team. And then any of those 5 teams I give you, Mo, you can probably tell me 3 things wrong with all of them, and another couple of teams that can beat them. Like, that is where we are right now. Maybe the Ravens are the most complete team,
but they're
in the AFC right now. But you're telling me you're going to ride Lamar Jackson through the playoffs, and you're really that confident with that when the going gets tough and good defenses are scheming to take the run away from Lamar Jackson and make him a passer? I know he can do it, Mo. I've seen him do it. But that's what you're going to roll with? That's going to be the sure thing? No, it's not going to be a sure thing. There's potential. There's a possibility. But, Mo, this is the year. If you are a good team in the AFC, Mo, it's your time. Figure it out, because next year, Mahomes is going to have weapons. Next year, Burrow is going to be back healthy. Next year, Jim Harbaugh or Bill Belichick is probably going to be with the Chargers, and they're actually probably going to be in the playoffs next year.
Right.
Next year, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be back with the New York Jets.
Right.
I'm not saying they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, but that's another hurdle you're going to have to climb over. Next year, the Browns are going to have a great defense and probably a competent quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who at least is going to win some more games than this current quarterback crew can win.
This is great.
But, Mo, let's talk about this year. It's anyone's game, if you ask me.
It's wide open, and this is the year in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. You could be a one-off team. I don't think you have to be a dynasty. You could get there. I don't know if you win it or not, and I don't think it means, well, they're going to be in the Super Bowl for the next 3 or 4 years. No, I think that you laid it out. Next year, it's going to be harder. It's going to be a lot. Sunshine will be another year into his career. He will be better. Trevor Lawrence will have mastered his craft more. Whatever you think of Anthony Richardson, he will be back at 100%. So the Colts will add weapons around him. CJ Stroud will have another year under his belt. He will be better. The AFC next season is going to be a bear. It's going to be a bear. But this season, like you said, all of a sudden, Chris, it's I know it's crazy talk, but what if Russ and Sean Payton go on a run down the stretch? This is the year where matchups could determine if you get to the Super Bowl. How do I know that? What a story after what happened all last year after what happened after you guys hung 70 on them. If that team that looked like they were done went on a run and made it to the Super Bowl.
I mean, you're looking at a Denver defense that over their last 5 games, and let's again, you have to play who is on your schedule. I've been saying that for weeks on this show, and I'm not making it seem any different when it comes to the Denver Broncos. But you're looking at a Denver Broncos team who over the last 5 weeks, they've actually beaten names on their schedule. And you have to give credit where credit is due. They started off by beating a Green Bay Packer team who was fighting for a playoff spot in the NFC. Jordan Love is playing better. They knocked off the Chiefs, which nobody thought they were going to do. They knocked off the Buffalo Bills, which nobody thought they were going to do. That's a Pro Bowl quarterback caliber with Josh Allen. That's an elite quarterback with Patrick Mahomes. They went and they knock off the Vikings. I get it. Kirk Cousins wasn't there, but the Vikings are in the middle of a playoff push themselves. And then they go hang 29 on one of the best defenses in the AFC. I understand that their starting quarterback wasn't there, but I'll argue that even if their starting quarterback was there, I don't think it would have made that much of a difference because the quarterback play in Cleveland this season has been kind of even. I understand that Watson wasn't turning the ball over as much as the other guys are, but Denver's getting turnovers from everybody. That's all Denver's doing right now is getting teams to turn the ball over. And then, Mo, like you said, you look at Denver's schedule and you're like, okay, they're on a little bit of a run here. Okay, well, they got the Texans. Am I shocked that they beat the Texans? Absolutely not. That's a winnable game now, if you ask me. And then after the Texans, what is their schedule? Oh, the Chargers, that's going to be a win. The Lions might be a tough game. Patriots, Chargers, Raiders to end the season? There might be 2 losses left on this Denver schedule. This week in Houston, and then a couple weeks in Detroit. Well, if that's the case, you turn around, you look at their record, they're 6-5 right now. 2 losses puts them at 10-7. 10-7 could be the playoffs. So now you got Sean Payton and Russ in the playoffs after a month into the season where Russ was cooked. Payton should be fired. Things were burning in Denver. They couldn't do anything on either side of the football. And now you're looking at a team that in playoffs, they play playoff football, Mo. They play great defense. They don't turn the ball over. They're systematic in their approach. Yeah, it's boring as hell. I totally understand it. But it's winning games.
And it controls, they win time of possession. They speed the game up by keeping your offense off the field.
And then you look at who would they be playing? Let's say they get a 7 seed. Who are they playing? Kansas City, they beat them. Jacksonville? Is Denver really going to be scared of Jacksonville? Are you really going to look at a Jacksonville-Denver matchup and be like, there's no chance? Of course there's a chance. It's Jacksonville. Miami? Yeah, Miami hung 70 on them, but now their defense is playing great. I mean, you can.
That would be a great matchup. You know what I mean? In light of if somebody hangs 70 on you and you get the opportunity to meet them in the playoffs, you that would have to be an extra layer of motivation.
There is no team in the AFC if Denver finishes 10-7 and they continues the run they're on. So they would have basically gone, 6-7-2 or 8-2 down the stretch to make the playoffs. There's no team that they would match up against where you'd be like, no, there's no way they can beat them. Because, again, that team is supposed to be the Chiefs. If you take the Chiefs, and I don't care what's happened this season, and you put them in a game in the playoffs against the Ravens, the Jaguars, or the Dolphins, you can look at it and say, I'm taking the Chiefs. But in the back of your mind, you're like, but if they lose, I wouldn't be surprised. And
Mahomes
in years past, you don't say that, Mo, about Kansas City. You look at it and you say the Chiefs are going to roll. If Miami or Baltimore or Jacksonville hangs around, I would be surprised. Not if they win.
Facts. There is no clear dominant team in the AFC. We respect the Chiefs and we expect them to do well because of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but their shortcomings have been exposed all season long. And I'd have to be crazy to ignore that heading into the postseason. I said it before at the beginning of the season. If Patrick Mahomes, with this receiving core, found a way to get back to the Super Bowl, all right, no more arguments about who's the GOAT. He just leaps to the head of the class because there's no reason that team, with all of its shortcomings, should be able to get back to the Super Bowl. That's what I believe. There's no way. There is no dominant team in the AFC, but when you look at the top teams, they're the ones that's bereft of talent. Look at their receiving core to Miami's. That's a joke. Look at their receiving core to even Jacksonville's. Not good. That's a joke. They have a great, all-time great tight end. And everybody else are just guys. They are. They're just guys. And I don't think you can win that way. At least not this season.
When you're crossing your fingers as a can, and again, this is nothing against Patrick Mahomes. And I know people out there are going to sit here and they're going to come to Mahomes' defense. Stop it. We're not taking a shot at Patrick Mahomes. No. We know he's great. We will tell you he is the best quarterback in the league. He may not be the best quarterback in the league this year statistically, but at the end of the day, I would take Patrick Mahomes over any quarterback in the NFL right now, hands
Correct.
down. That's not what this conversation is. This conversation is that as a Chiefs fan, you're doing two things. One, you're just praying to God that nothing happens to Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
You don't want him banged up. You don't want him sore. You don't want him missing a week or two. He needs to stay as healthy as he possibly can, not just for the rest of the season, but also for the entirety of whatever your playoff run looks like, because he is your offense. The other thing you need to cross your fingers about is that somehow Rice emerges into a top receiver over the next 6 weeks and into the playoffs.
And he's played better.
And he has played better. But we don't know if he's a 1. But you need him to be a 1 because you're treating him like a 1 because he's getting the lion's share of the balls that are going to wide receivers. That's risky, Mo. That's risky because what's behind him? Sky Moore? Valdez Scantling? Those aren't ones. We know those aren't ones.
No, I would argue that the Chiefs running backs are better receivers than some of the receivers.
Kadarius Toney? I mean, yeah, he looked great when you were bringing over when Tyreek was there and, Kelce was a couple years younger. Yeah, Tony was a piece. He was depth. He's not a 1.
Right.
So,
and to your point, you pray that nothing happens to Travis Kelce, but I will say something that I've noticed over the course of this season. Something has happened to him.
He's getting old.
He's getting older. He's a little bit slower, Father. Those injuries have added up. He's slowed down. I'm not saying still a great player. I'm not challenging that, but he's not getting open as easy. He's getting older, and that's another adjustment going forward that Patrick Mahomes will have to make in his career. The plan, and every franchise plans this, when you have an aging star, you hope you draft well enough that the young guys come in and you have your successor already in place. And they don't have anybody like that already in place. Like if Travis Kelce leaves, if he retires in the next couple of years, who's going to be the guy? Because that
it's not on the roster right now,
right? Unless they make a trade or do something in free agency, there is nobody on the roster right now that could be the guy.
And that's scary. That's scary when you take a look at the talent that is Patrick Mahomes, and you hate to make this comparison, but how can you? And it's only been a couple seasons. I get it. They could completely fix this next season. Kansas City is known for making moves. But if this goes a couple more seasons, aren't you going to look at this and say, well, this is Tom Brady all over again? This is the best quarterback in the league, and they're just not putting offensive pieces around him, and they're giving him one guy. Now, granted, with Kelce, it's the guy. But like you said, Kelsey's getting older. Brady had Gronk there for a while. Gronk was his guy, and, Gronk had his injuries and whatnot. And then with Brady, it was he made the best of what he had, He got and people, it's funny because with Tom, they're always like, well, they got him Randy Moss. Let's think about the Randy Moss they got him, because they got him a Randy Moss that was coming out of the Raiders that nobody thought was going to do anything. Randy thought he had something left in the tank. Tom was like, we're going to get every last drop out of you. So, so Tom was excited, and they did. They really did. But don't act like they went and they got prime Randy Moss, who everyone knew was going to tear it up with the Patriots, because that wasn't the case. It looks better after Randy did what he did with the Patriots. But we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I named all the receivers that Bill Belichick drafted. And there was 3 on the list. And 2 of them don't even play for the Patriots anymore because they traded one to the Jets, Braxton Berrios, who's a good slot guy, 3 receiver, special teams guy. The other is Jacoby Myers, who I think is a solid 2, who now plays for the Raiders. And then their best one was, his name escapes me. Little guy. Not Welker, the other one. Edelman, yeah. And Edelman was a 7th round pick who, let's be honest, you didn't draft him thinking this guy is going to become Brady's best friend and his most trusted weapon. That's not what you drafted. You said, hey, it's the 7th round. We might as well address the wide receiver situation. Let's draft this Edelman kid. Like, that's what you did, and it worked out really well for you.
Because Edelman was an amazing overachiever.
Correct. And maybe they saw that. Maybe they saw that in the 7th round. They're like, look at the work this kid puts in. We want him for his work ethic. I'm not saying that they were completely blind going into the Edelman pick. But, Mo, when you're picking a player in the 7th round, you're not picking what you think is going to be an impact player for years to come. That doesn't happen often in the 7th round. So I get it. They hit sometimes.
But usually that guy's not on your roster in a couple of years, right? Like,
Correct.
If we're being real, usually that's the case.
So people want to sit here and say, well, they got Edelman right. 7th round, guys. They didn't think he was going to be that.
Brady was really good at elevating receivers who didn't have a big route tree, but the 3 or 4 things they did well, he just went to it over and over again. Like, he knew what Welker could do. He knew Welker was great between the hashes. So that's where he got his work in with Welker. Amendola was I'd say he's a watered down version of Welker. He wasn't quite Welker. And Edelman is somewhere in between. A little bit better than Welker, more physical at the point of attack, could break tackles better. But Brady elevated all those guys. They were good players because I think they were all overachievers. But if they didn't have him as quarterback, if they'd gone anywhere else or played anywhere else for the bulk of their careers, I don't think we would know their names.
I'll even go this far. If Drew Bledsoe was their quarterback for the majority of their careers, I don't think we would know their names.
No,
I mean,
I'm with you.
And Drew Bledsoe is no slouch at quarterback.
Absolutely not.
So, I mean, if you're saying if they played there 10 years earlier with the same talent within themselves, I don't think Drew Bledsoe pulls that out of them. I don't think they're turning into what they were for Brady, and that's what they were going to be for Bledsoe, because that Bledsoe needed a number 1, and Bledsoe went to his number 1. He wasn't making 7th round picks, 3rd or 4th on the wide receiver tree into stars. That's what Brady did. And circling back to Kansas City, I don't even know if they have that right now, because we've seen Mahomes spread the ball around this year. We've seen games where, it's midway through the 2nd quarter and they're like, he's completed 10 passes to 9 different guys. And you're looking at it and you're not really feeling a certain way about it. You're not looking at it saying, look at those 9 weapons that Patrick Mahomes has.
Right.
You're sitting there looking at it like, well, he better spread it around because he needs to.
I think Mahomes is spreading it around, and he's going with the strategy, whoever gets open first, right? Because these guys struggle to get separation and coverage. Like, if you look at their roster, you're thinking they could really use an Edelman, right? They could use an Edelman. If they had an Edelman, I'd feel a lot better about the Chiefs' chances.
All right, Mo, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk about the future of 2 quarterbacks who we thought were going to be on their current teams next season, but maybe they aren't. And if they aren't, we're going to figure out what would be the best place for them to go to. Don't go anywhere. That's coming up on the other side of the break. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show on Sports Empire Network.
What's up, everybody? It's Cottrell Simpson with Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, where we're going to cover all things breaking news, sports related. We're going to preview games, and we're also going to give you our reaction to the games that have happened before. You can catch us on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And if you miss us there, no worries. You can also catch us on Roku with Northeast Streaming Sports Productions from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Hey, and listen, if you're not into all sports and just NFL, we have Sideline to Sideline. That's on Thursday nights from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8 p.m. We'll break down the NFL week, the Thursday night game, and we'll preview all NFL action.
And if you're like me and college football is your fix, tune in every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Coast to Coast College Football pregame show. We'll review the previous week's action, the day's biggest games. We'll give you our pick'ems, and we'll even give you some teams that are on upset alert.
And if you don't catch us live, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do also have a YouTube station, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
In case you missed it, Mo, Shedeur Sanders has signed another NIL deal. He is now he now has his own smoothie at Smoothie King. It's called the Shedeur. So if you have a Smoothie King near you, you can possibly head over there and get yourself the Shedeur. It is his signature smoothie at Smoothie King.
They couldn't come up with a better name. the
you know he picked that name.
Oh, I know he picked it, but feel free to be a little bit more creative. That's all I'm saying.
You know, he's like, I want everyone drinking the Shedeur.
The Shedeur. Yeah, I want to see a grown man order. I'll have a Shedeur. My friend over here will have a beer, and I'll have the
Shedeur.
Okay.
Mo, we talked about it yesterday. We talked about the Chicago Bears, and we talked about Justin Fields. And we both came to an agreement that if we have a chance to get Caleb Williams in the draft, that's what we're going to do. We're going to draft Caleb Williams. We're going to reset the salary clock, making it a year one rookie salary clock as opposed to Justin Fields on the verge of wanting the bag. And we're basically going to restart the franchise with a new face of it. 33 games in, we know what Justin Fields is. And I think you and I are confident if we were running the Chicago Bears, he isn't our guy. We would rather roll the dice with Caleb Williams, who we think is actually going to be a better quarterback or has the potential to be a better quarterback than what we know Justin Fields currently is. So with that in mind, Mo, that means that we're going to move Justin Fields now. We're not going to cut him because there is value. There is value for Justin Fields. He has earned the right to go play for another team. It's not often in the NFL that a second team is a guarantee, but what we have learned is that talent will guarantee you a second team. Baker Mayfield got a second team. He was given the keys to potentially lead the Panthers franchise if he could prove he could do it. He didn't prove he could do it, so he is no longer there. Baker, fortunately enough, got himself a chance for a third team in Tampa Bay. I know that the Rams, I know the Rams were technically his third team, but he was never going to lead the Rams and be their franchise quarterback. But he was given the reins to be the franchise quarterback if he could prove it for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, we'll see how the rest of the season goes for him, but he had a rare opportunity to do it 3 times, right? You look at a guy like Geno Smith. It took him a little bit of time, but he got an opportunity to be the guy for a second time around. Talent will give you that opportunity. So, Mo, there is no doubt that Justin Fields has talent. Facts. He is athletic. He is elite on the athletic side when it comes to what he can do with his legs. He is very Lamar-esque. He is in some ways Michael Vick-esque. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't necessarily have the cannon that Michael Vick had. And I would even argue he doesn't quite have the accuracy of Lamar. And let's be honest, Lamar isn't known for being the most accurate quarterback in the league, which means Justin needs to work on his damn accuracy. That being said, you know there is going to be someone out there. And this is the most famous line in the NFL, Mo. I can fix him.
Yeah.
You know someone is going to think that. So let's have the conversation. Who do you think is going to be like, I can fix him, bring him in here, let me do it?
I don't know. There's no shortage of places that need quarterbacks. We know this, right? What if somebody says I can fix him, but they don't want him to be their starter year one.
That works.
I'm just throwing it out there. What if the Jets say, hey, you know what? What if Justin Fields backs up Aaron Rodgers for a year or two
and learns?
That's not the worst place. That's kind of going old school. Not every rookie quarterback can jump right in and be able to lead an offense and lead a team. Some guys need to literally sit behind a veteran and learn that craft. I think Justin Fields might be one of those guys. This isn't about his talent. This is about his football acumen.
And Mo, couldn't you argue that Aaron would feel less threatened knowing that we got him because he couldn't hack it as a starter in Chicago? So the entire world would know, yeah, sure, he might take over when I leave. He's not going to push me for the job now because we just saw what he did as a starter for a few seasons, and it was awful. So that might be a great situation for Aaron Rodgers because he's not going to feel threatened.
He's not looking over his shoulder, for sure.
Not at all. You draft the rookie quarterback, the kid, the unproven, and then Aaron has a few rough games, and now the conversation is, is Aaron done? Is it time? Should we start getting a look at the kid? It's not going to happen with Justin Fields right away. It might eventually happen if Aaron's playing terrible, but at that point, you should know it's over at that point.
Right.
What about this, Mo? What about the New York Giants?
And, the funny thing, the only reason I didn't say the Giants because I thought that his skill set is very similar to Danny Dimes. They're very similar. Danny Dimes has wheels. People don't talk about it a lot, but his straight line speed, he might be as fast as any quarterback in the league in straight line speed. And he can throw the ball, but I wouldn't say he's got a cannon. So they're very similar. If you're the Giants,
he cleaned up Josh Allen.
Facts. I trust Daboll. I think he's a good football coach. If the Giants are willing to eat that money and bring in Fields, even if they trade Danny Dimes, I'm sure they're going to eat some money. If they believe in Fields, if they're doing a full reset, you know what? I would take it this way. If you believe in Daboll, because I think Daboll is a good football coach, I think Daboll is a teacher. He's exactly what Justin Fields needs. He needs a teacher. He needs somebody to slow him down and set him up for success. I think Daboll would have some conventional offense. He'd mix in some RPO because he knows with his legs, you'd almost be committing a crime by not instilling some sort of RPO with that guy because of what he can do with his wheels. So the Giants would be really interesting, and you would still have Saquon there. I'm assuming that what's going to happen. Saquon's going to be like, well, I want a little bit more money, and they're going to go, I mean, you were pretty good. You had a good year, but you're a year older, and we're going to offer you a 1-year deal, and he's going to take another 1-year deal.
How about the Atlanta Falcons?
Well, Atlanta has a lot of weapons. They have a lot of talent. Now they might need to change coach, change the offensive coordinator, but I love the talent that they have there. And it's young talent, right? Maybe you put him with a group of guys that he can grow with, right? He can make a core with that team. I like him with the Falcons better than I like him with any other team because they're all young and they're all starting fresh. And maybe what he needs going to the Falcons, because they don't have high expectations, right? You could say we laugh about that division, and for all their flaws, they won't say it out loud. But I know Atlanta is like, we've had a great year. Look at us. We're right. I mean, really, we're right there. We could still win the division, and they could. I don't think they will, but they could. Let Justin Fields go there. Look, I'll say this: we've been critical of Justin Fields, and rightly so.
Mm-hmm.
He's better than Ritter.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think he's better than Ritter, like right now. Like for all the things he needs to improve upon, he's better than Ritter. Why not bring him there? Let him hone his craft, get better with a young core, and see what you have.
The second situation I want to talk about here, Mo, before we get to our picks, let's go back in history a little bit. Let's go back to Brett Favre. So Brett Favre leaves the Green Bay Packers. He has a 1-year pit stop with the New York Jets, and then he has 2 years in Minnesota. Obviously, year one in Minnesota, very exciting. Year 2, not so much, and that's when his career ended. What most people don't remember, they remember the New York Jets being a disaster, and that's why he left and went to Minnesota. But what most people don't remember is that he got hurt with the Jets. And before he got hurt, the Jets were 8-3. The Jets were leading the division. The Jets were favored to win the AFC East with Brett Favre. Then Brett Favre gets hurt. He has a shoulder injury. The season basically goes into the tank, and management looks at it and says, we're not rolling the dice and bringing him back a year 2.
Sure.
And then he goes to Minnesota, and Jet fans are like, well, wait a minute. Look at that. But what happened the year they got rid of Brett Favre? They draft a new quarterback. They draft Mark Sanchez, and Mark Sanchez helps them get to AFC championship games, a couple of them, actually. So I say that to say this. Clearly, the New York Jets were ready to win. That's why they went and got Brett Favre. That's why Brett Favre was 8-3 with them. And that's why after Brett Favre, when Mark Sanchez came in, they found success their first couple of years with Mark Sanchez because the team was ready to win. They just needed stability at the quarterback position.
Right.
Is that not the same situation the New York Jets are in right now?
That's exactly the same position they're in.
So let me ask you, Mo,
if they had competent quarterback play, they're in the playoffs.
Do you bring back Aaron Rodgers? Is it not the same situation with Brett Favre? You brought in Brett for a year. You had the high expectations. He got hurt. You said, I don't want to roll the dice and do it again because I know this team has a window. I know this team can be special if we just get someone in there. So we're going to go draft someone that we think can do it. And Mark Sanchez wasn't the franchise quarterback, but he was enough with what they had to get to almost where they wanted to go. So is this not history almost repeating itself? Aaron's coming off a long injury. He's only got a year left on his contract. He's going to retire in a year or 2. You don't know what you're going to get out of the 40-year-old quarterback. They didn't know what they were going to get out of Brett Favre. Why not go into the draft a young quarterback to just stabilize the offense? Let the defense do their thing. You get us 20 points a game, kid. That's all we need from you. Competent offense with all the weapons that you already have around you. Plus, we're going to put a couple more around you once we get the Aaron Rodgers friends and family plan out of here, and we get rid of Cobb and Lazard, and we get rid of Nat Hackett and get you a real offensive coordinator. Once we eliminate all that and actually put people around here that can actually play football, it's almost this. It looks like it's the same situation.
It's very similar. It's interesting because what you're saying is, do you want to go with the another year and he hits the wall, right? And there goes all your aspirations of competing for a Super Bowl.
Because couldn't that happen next year? Couldn't Father Time show up week 4, and then you're just like, oh shoot, that's not the Aaron we thought we were getting.
Right, and that's what happens. When guys hit the wall, sometimes it's gradual, but sometimes it is like literally falling off a cliff. It just hits. And you're like, wow, he's not. Manning is a great example. The first year or so with Denver, he was amazing. That last season, I don't think he can throw the ball 10 yards. I mean, he was throwing waffles. It was bad. He literally fell off a cliff. To his credit, because he had such a great football mind, he literally made himself into a game manager because he knew what he couldn't do. To his credit. You're right. I didn't think of it, but it is the exact same situation. And I would go another way with this. I think you're right, but if you believe that you're built to win now, and I think they are, why wouldn't you pursue a guy like Kirk Cousins? Kurt's younger than Aaron. Kurt's got, if he's healthy, I think he's got 5 more years at a high level. And I would say Kurt is more than he's more than a game manager. I mean, Kurt can push the football. He can fling the football. You have tons of talent. Like, I'm just saying, I think Kirk Cousins is underappreciated. And I think that if you put him on the Jets, with Garrett Wilson and the rest of those guys and those running backs, that offense, even though we say you only need to get 20 points, they're going to be scoring around 27, 28 points a game.
And the Jets are already saying that, they're going to do everything they can to get Devontae Adams over there next season because, again, friends and family plan, that's what Aaron wants, right? But if you're willing to make that move, if you're willing to bring in, an elite wide receiver for Aaron, you're willing to bring in an elite wide receiver for whoever is quarterbacking.
Sure.
So whether it be Kirk Cousins or someone else, still, it may not be Devontae Adams, but still go get an elite wide receiver. So you now have 2 elite wide receivers. I mean, if you're going to do it for one, you might as well do it for the other and still put your franchise in the position to win.
Because I feel like they're going all in to win, which I understand. But Aaron Rodgers is not going to be part of the Jets in maybe 2 years, right? We're thinking he's going to put everything he has into next season. But what if they fall short and at some point he does hit that wall? Is he going to be their quarterback the season after next? No, there's no way you can know that. There's no way you can know that. I'm with you. If you're going to go out there and go all in for him, then whoever your quarterback is, be it Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins, or you draft a young talented guy, wouldn't you want that young talented guy to go, I've got 2 elite wide receivers, which means if you try to double this guy, he's working one-on-one. Like that's the whole point. Why would you not give that guy more weapons? I'm with you. I just feel like the Jets feel that they're so into Aaron Rodgers that they're not really ready, Chris, to give up that friends and family package. Like they enjoy it. They're like, I like sitting around talking to Cobb and some of the guys. They're cool.
But I will say, and this is why I kind of bring this up, Allen Lazard was a healthy scratch last week. He's not hurt. They just finally said, we're not playing you. You're not really good. So you're going to sit. And if they're willing to start doing that, and I know that that's just 1 week, and I know that things are going to, I guarantee you things are going to change if Aaron plays this year or if Aaron's healthy to play next year. But isn't that what really has to happen, Mo? They have to look at it and say, Hackett, you got to go. You're garbage. We need to get someone who's competent play calling in here. Even if Aaron still does his thing next year and ignores it and calls his own plays, like we need to have someone in here that's not Nathaniel Hackett. We need to have actual wide receivers that make a difference on the field, not just people Aaron likes talking to. Because Cobb's been a ghost. Lazard's done nothing. You paid him as a 2. I would argue he's a low tier 3, top tier 4.
He's a 3.
I mean, maybe, right? Maybe. And you're paying him 4 years, 44. Come on now.
And I would argue, does Cobb even suit up? You know what I mean? Cobb probably
He suits up game 1 for Aaron, but that's it.
And then he stayed clean the rest of the season. He's clean. And I get it. Aaron wants to feel good. He wants his guys around him. But you need some guys that can play.
Correct.
You need some guys that can play. You can't just have guys that bring feel goods to the team. You need guys that can actually produce. So I do think that they have to tell Aaron, like, look, you're going to have to just pick your favorite guy. A couple of these guys got to go. You know what I mean?
We'll give you one.
Right. We'll give you one of your guys, but we need to get some guys in here who can actually get some production on the field.
And they wasted that money on Dalvin Cook instead of going after offensive line help. I mean, what has Dalvin Cook done for you 11 games into the season? 182 yards? And he started a couple of games because the Brees was, coming back from the injury. He's done nothing. But that was something else Aaron wanted. Aaron wanted another star, and then Dalvin wanted to come play because he liked what Aaron Rodgers was building. It's just a lot of wasted money that if you keep wasting the money into next season, you better get there. If you're going to keep all this stuff together for Aaron, Hackett, and Cook, you bring Cook back for another year, Lazard, Cobb. If you're going to keep all this together for Aaron next season, you damn sure better win the division or get into the playoffs. Because if you're going to keep all that stuff around and it doesn't work out,
right?
I mean, and none of us think it's going to with those pieces. And that's not taking anything away from Aaron. That's just looking at what those pieces have done. And I get it. Quarterback play hasn't been great this year. but Wilson's still putting up numbers with crappy quarterbacks. Lazard's a joke on this team. Cobb can't be healthy. The offense is a joke because look how Nat Hackett's calling the offense. We've seen other quarterbacks, not great quarterbacks, at least be able to score touchdowns. Cincinnati is scoring touchdowns. Browning is not their future. I'm sorry. He's not. Look at what Gardner Minshew is doing with Indianapolis.
That's a great example.
And they don't have the defense or the weapons that the Jets have on either side of the ball. They score touchdowns. Like that. This conversation is literally the Jets can't score touchdowns. So
that sums up their whole season.
Right. All right, Mo, let's get to the picks. We got about 9 minutes left this morning. Let's start with the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans. There's not a lot of great football games this week, but this might be one of them. It's in Houston. This game is huge for both of them. Neither of these teams are probably going to win their division. I would say the Texans have a better shot than the Broncos do, but both of these teams are vying for playoff positioning. Neither is in the playoffs if the playoffs were to start today, but one of these teams is going to 7 wins, which means that the playoff situation after this week is probably going to have one of these two teams in it. Mm-hmm. Do you like Denver or do you like Houston this week?
I'm going to go give Houston a slight edge. They're at home. I think for Denver to win this football game, and it's not impossible, but for them to win, I think they would have to turn Stroud over at least 2 or 3 times. Maybe a couple of picks, maybe a fumble, a strip sack or something like that. That's not impossible, but that's a lot. That's just asking a lot, even for a defense that's played really well. I think the Texans win in a low scoring game. I don't think it's a shootout.
I like what you said right there. You talked about how if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to force the rookie to make some mistakes. And he hasn't done that a lot this season, but he has done that a lot the last 3 games. So his last 3 games, he has 4 interceptions. He had 1 against the Bengals. He had 3 against the Cardinals. He played a pretty clean game against Jacksonville. I think he fumbled the ball once, but I don't think he lost it. But we're seeing a little more turnover stuff come out of him. I do think you're right. If the Broncos are going to win this game, their defense will have to do what it's been doing. They're going to have to turn the ball over 3 or 4 times. But I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to get 3 or 4 turnovers, and that's how they're going to win. If they don't get the turnovers, they're not going to win this game. Because no matter what they do defensively, we know what they're going to do offensively. 65, 70% completion, 182 yards, 1 or 2 touchdowns. We know what the stat line is going to look like on the other end for Russell Wilson.
182 yards in the air. That's correct. In the air. Wow. Right. So but that's what it looks like.
We know what it's going to look like. So the only way they do win this game is to turn him over 3 or 4 times, but I think they're going to do that. So because of that, I'm going to take Denver 23-21. Close scoring game. But again, I'll tell you right now, if they don't get any turnovers, they could lose this game easily by 14 points because they're going to give up points because of their defense. They're not great against the run game and they're spotty against the pass game, but they do create turnovers, which is a big part of why they are winning currently. The Arizona Cardinals 2-10 head to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh should win this game. Kyler's been dynamic since he came back, but it's not necessarily translating into points per se. So I don't pick Pittsburgh a lot, which means they're probably going to lose this game because I think I'm 0-2 when I pick Pittsburgh to win this season, but I'm going to go Steelers.
I'm going to go Steelers as well. Look, they just had their first 400 total yards offensively last week. I don't know if they're going to duplicate that, but I do think they're going to be better offensively again, and they're just a better overall team versus the Cardinals. So I think Kyler will play well, but the Steelers will win.
And this is the week to keep pushing whatever you're trying to do offensively. This is not a good team. This is not a great defense. So whatever you did last week, do it again this week, and you're probably going to find success again because you're not playing a great team. And at this point, if you're Pittsburgh, you just need to keep piling up wins. You're 7-4. You're right in the thick of things when it comes to the playoff picture. Don't get cute now.
Right. Correct.
The 4-7 Chargers, the 2-9 Patriots. I don't think the Patriots want to win this game personally. I think they're starting Bailey Zappi. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets benched at halftime for Malik Cunningham. I won't be surprised if you flash to the bench in the fourth quarter and Mac Jones is just crying on the bench because they didn't choose to put him in. I think the Chargers are going to win here. I don't think it's going to be a great game, but that's all I got here.
I'm going to simplify it. From one of the rare times this season, the Chargers will find a way to win.
I like it. 6-5 Colts, 4-7 Texans. Big game for the Colts. They're not going to have Jonathan Taylor. He's going to miss 2 or 3 weeks at least with his thumb injury. The Titans at 4-7. I would say they're out of the playoff race. They would probably have to win out to even make some noise potentially for the playoff race. The Colts are the better team here. Tennessee has played a little better, I would say, since benching Ryan Tannehill, but they've also had a couple of games with Will Levis where the offense has done absolutely nothing. I'm not saying the Colts are a great defense because they're not. They are an opportunistic defense. They do create turnovers, but I think the Colts just have the better team, and I think that's what we're going to see. So I'm going to go Indianapolis.
I'm going with the Colts as well. I think Minshew will be able to move the football up and down the field enough to generate just enough offense to get the win. The Colts are one of those teams. They're very similar to the Steelers. They don't wow you with their offensive numbers, but they find a way to win games.
5-6 Falcons, 4-7 Jets. I don't do this often, Mo, but I'm going to pick the Jets, and I'm going to take them. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to take them because I think they're going to be hyped about the return of Aaron Rodgers. And I think they know they need to win this game for that return to still matter.
I know what you're going.
If they go out and they lose to the Falcons and they drop to 4-8, so much steam is taken off of this Aaron Rodgers return as far as it meaning anything for the playoffs this year. He might still return and play some meaningless garbage football games, but if you want Aaron Rodgers to return and have a shot at the playoffs, you need to win out. So that starts against the Atlanta Falcons. And the Atlanta Falcons are not a good team. They may think they're great because they're leading their division right now, but they're not a good team. And what does Ritter do? He turns the ball over.
He does.
What do the Jets defense like to do? Create turnovers. So I think we're going to see the Jets turn them over. I think we're going to see field goals from the New York Jets. I think we might see a defensive touchdown. I think we might see an offensive touchdown because it was a really short field and they just kind of luck into it. I think that's the kind of game we're going to see. I think the Jets might score 20 this game, and I think that will be enough to beat the Falcons.
I'm going Jets only because you kind of convinced me, because I get it. The value of this game is if they win this game, Aaron comes back and we're back in the mix again. You know what I mean? He may come back anyway, but it matters if he comes back if you win this game. So I do think they're going to be motivated. The Falcons do turn the ball over a lot. I think it's the perfect storm for the Jets to get the win.
And we don't know if Aaron's coming back next week for Houston, but that's the point. We don't know. So win the game. Hope he comes back next week for Houston because he's supposed to be the savior. So we have to win until he gets back. And I think that's going to carry them this week. Next week, we'll see. We'll talk about that next week. The 8-3 Lions are going to the 5-6 Saints. The 5-6 tied for the division leading Saints. I give them credit where credit is due. It's technically true. But I don't think this is going to be a great game for the Saints. I think that they're going to be handled fairly easily by the Lions. Even though the Lions have had a couple of questionable things happen this season to them, I think they're going to handle the Saints.
I don't know.
You're going Saints.
Because I think that the Lions have struggled the last couple of games, and not with good teams.
I agree.
And Goff has turned the ball over a little bit more the last couple of games. This is not me saying they're not a good football team, but I do think that there are some flaws. There are chinks in that armor, and to me, this is a must win for the Saints. So I'm going to go Saints.
All right, fair enough. The 1-10 Panthers head to the 4-7 Buccaneers. Mo, I don't know if it was you who pointed this out or if it was somebody else in our group chat, but there is still a path for the 1-10 Panthers to win the division.
That was Brett. That was Brett.
So Mo, when you are 1-10 and there are 6 games left to go in the season, and there is still a path to win your division, doesn't that just say it all?
It does. And it's, if it was somebody else other than Carolina because of how they play, I'd be like, that's really possible. Look, Brett laid out the path. I just don't think it's
this week. It starts with beating the Bucs. If they beat the Bucs, their playoff hopes are still alive.
Maybe, and that was that cliche line players always go, we're taking it one game at a time.
Right.
One game at a time. There you go.
I'm going with Tampa. Tampa Bay's playoff hopes are actually still alive.
Right. I'm going with Baker as well.
If they get to, I believe they're 4-7 right now. They are. If they get to 5-7, I mean, the wild card is still a stretch, but the division's right there. So especially if the Saints lose to the Lions and if the Jets beat the Falcons, now you're looking at a situation where those teams they're all tied again. They're all tied again. They're all 5-7. So it's very possible we could come out of here with 3 5-7 teams tied for their division heading into week 14.
And so the goal is real simple now. Never mind your record overall, just as long as you have the best record in the division winner will go to the playoffs.
Correct.
So that is the goal now. You could have an ugly record, just win the division.
What should be the game of the week? We have the 8-3 49ers, the 10-1 Eagles. The 49ers are getting a lot of play here, Mo, even though I know it's interesting because they're not the home team.
Right.
So usually you would think that, or are they the home team? Where are they playing? Let me take a look here. No, they're not the home team. They're playing in Philly. So you would think best team in the NFC at home against what's supposed to be the next best contender. You would think that Philly would get the nod here. A 1-point favorite, 1.5-point favorite. They're 3-point dogs coming in. So Vegas clearly thinks this is the game that Philly's not going to overcome by doing what they've been doing. And they're pretty convinced because usually just being at home gets you 3 points.
Agreed.
So they're a 3-point dog at home to San Francisco, which means Vegas doesn't see this necessarily as being a super close game. They're seeing this as being a 1 or 2 score game favoring San Francisco. Mo, do you see that?
No, I don't see what I don't see what Vegas sees. But I have said, and I'm consistent, if the Eagles play the Niners like they've played the last couple of games, they'll lose. They for them to beat the Niners, there needs to be a better version of what they've done. The performances that they've had the last couple of weeks, that won't beat the Niners. Having said that, even though I'm a Niners fan, I think I favor the Eagles to win a close game. I want the Niners to win. I want them to win, but I favor the Eagles to win a close game.
We talked about this a little bit earlier. I believe it was yesterday, actually. Jalen Hurts, he has 10 interceptions this season. That puts him towards the top of the NFL with that. Josh Allen leads it with 13. Mac Jones has 12. And then it's Tua and Jalen Hurts with 10. Hurts has had interceptions in 2 straight games. He had one against the Chiefs and one against the Bills. And then before that, he had 2 clean games. But before that, he had picks in 3 straight games. So Jalen Hurts has been turning the ball over this season, but they still find a way to win. But to your point, Mo, there's going to come a time where those turnovers are going to not happen at opportune times. It's going to be too late in a game. It's going to be on a drive that needed to be a touchdown. And at some point, you can't overcome turnovers. Not saying he's definitely going to turn the ball over this week, but we'll see. We'll see how he plays.
But so the only thing that makes me pause on saying the Eagles win is real simple. he needs to have a clean football game. If he doesn't play a clean game, they're not going to win. For me, it's that cut and dry.
The 7-4 Browns and the 5-6 Rams. This is interesting, Mo, because way back when everyone was doing our over and unders, and the Rams were at like 3, and I said that this is absolutely ridiculous that the Rams are at 3 for an over and under. This could potentially be an 8 or 9 win team and compete for a playoff spot in a wild card. I got laughed at. I got laughed off the show. Mo, I know you weren't here that morning. I got laughed off the show. People were poking at me. Well, here we are. If the Rams win this week against the Browns, who don't have a quarterback, they're 6-6. And depending on how tiebreakers shake out, they could actually be in a wild card spot after week 13, because there's going to be a handful of 6-6 teams. I just don't know what all those tiebreakers look like. But my point is, Mo, they're there. They're in the playoff conversation, but can they overcome a really good defense in the Cleveland Browns?
I think that they can give the Browns trouble, because my guess is the Rams are going to come out in 4 wide receiver set, and they're going to spread out that defense. And it might be a 5-yard pass or a 6-yard pass, and before you know it, Stafford goes down the field for 20 yards on a seam route. I think that's the strategy to beat Cleveland. That's how you beat a team like Cleveland. You wear out their defensive front. And you attack their secondary. I'm actually picking the Rams to win the game. And I know that kind of goes against me thinking that Myles Garrett, I still think is going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
He still have a good game.
Right. He might still get a couple of sacks, but I think that if Stafford is going to spread them out and keep them on their toes, the Rams are going to score at least 17 or 20 points. I don't think Cleveland's offense can generate 17 points.
Yeah, and then that's really where the issue comes in. It's not so much the Cleveland defense, it's that they don't have the counter production anymore on the offensive side. It's different if your offense is scoring 24, 27 points a game, then you say, well, no one's scoring 27 on our defense. That's fair. Right. But when your offense scores 10, 13, 16 points a game, now it's a different story.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going with the Rams, because I just think that Cleveland is they're fighting this uphill battle with one hand tied behind their back, because they've just got inconsistent quarterback play no matter who's in there right now. And look, like you said, Deshaun Watson wasn't lighting up the sky, but he did one thing less than the other two. He didn't turn the ball over as much as the other two guys do. And if you're a team that struggles to score, the one thing you can't do is turn the ball over.
Our last one here, Mo, Sunday Night Football, Chiefs and Packers. I don't think the Packers are going to win this game, but I think this is going to be a very competitive game. Jordan Love, over his last 3 games, he's found the deep ball. And they're having a lot of big explosive plays on offense. He's getting both of his receivers involved in Watson and Dobbs. I don't think he can outduel Patrick Mahomes. And I think that you're still going to see him make some Jordan Love-like mistakes. So I think that's why they're not going to win this game. But I will say this. I'm going to say they score at least 3 touchdowns in this game. I think that they're going to have at least 21 points. I think it's going to be like a 35-24 kind of thing, where they might go back and forth in the first quarter or early into the second quarter, and then the mistakes kind of start happening and they can't catch up. But I think that Jordan Love is going to put up some numbers.
I'm going to do what I don't normally ever do.
Oh, no.
I think the Packers are going to win.
Oh, Mo.
I think the Packers are going to win. I think that Jordan Love will put up, like you said, 21, 24 points. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes can manufacture 24 points with that offense he has, unless Jordan Love throws you 2 or 3 picks. But I'm going to assume that Jordan Love takes care of the football. If he takes care of the football, I think the Packers are going to beat the Chiefs.
If you take a look at the Chiefs' schedule, their last few games, let's see here. Take out last week where they scored 31. You're right. They don't score a ton of points, Mo. I mean, 17 against the Eagles, 21 against Miami, 9 against Denver. They had a breakout game against the Chargers with 31. But before that, 19 against the Broncos. they're not scoring a ton of points. They're not the guaranteed 28 to 31 points that they've been the past couple of years. So you're right. If Jordan Love can put 21, 24, 28 points on the board, you're right. I don't know if the Chiefs can get 28 points on the board to match it.
The perception, because you're used to it, that they're a high-powered offense. They're not a high-powered offense, not this year. They struggle, especially in the second halves of games. This is not a high-powered offense. Patrick Mahomes, even though his numbers don't say it, I could argue he's having one of his great seasons because he is dinking and dunking to try to control possession to win close games because he knows he can't win shootouts. And that's what he's going to have to do against the Packers. He's going to have to keep the Packers offense off the field.
Bo, it's been an absolute great week with you, sir. Pleasure as always. Let's close it out.
Appreciate everybody being up in the chat. Thanks to everybody that's listening to us live right now and who will listen to us later. Check out all the stuff that we have to offer to you at Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire. Make sure you're back here Monday morning where we break down everything that happened in Week 13 of the NFL. Were we right? Were we wrong? Is there another quarterback being benched in New England? We'll talk about all of that stuff Monday morning right here. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show on Sports Empire Network. We will see you on Monday.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, from Brooklyn.
Hey, guys, any